Looking good, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, very good. Happy Friday. Another cold one here in Cleveland. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
Yeah, how are things over there weather-wise?
Oh man, I mean, it's been pretty cool over here. I can't complain.
Decent.
No. It's been sweet. I mean, we had yesterday it rained, which was kind of weird. We don't get a lot of rain here this time of the year, but it is kind of nice. And yeah, I can't complain at all. How about what's it like over there?
Same as it's been all winter. About 20 degrees, really freaking cold, really icy right now. Dangerously, like this reminds me of what I slipped on and broke my ankle in 3 places.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, had a lot of shrapnel put in it.
Danger.
Yeah. But hey, who knows? It can't last forever. All right, we got a lot going on here today. Let's dive in. We got a big upfront part of the episode that we'll get to in a second. But in current events, geez, I got like Tulsi Gabbard just got confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, which, as Dave Smith puts it, head of the deep state. I like that. We have breaking news that DOGE investigation finally forces the Congress to admit the U.S. government's long history of financing Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS. I have a video with that.
Wow. That's
major. That is something that Sean Riley's been talking about on his podcast for quite a while about finance. We're financing Al-Qaeda to the tune of something like 45 mil a week. It's awful. And so we get a little bit of breaking news on how that is happening. So anyways, it's officially out now. Just the ridiculous hypocrisy of our ass backwards government in recent years. How about this heading? We'll talk about Pam Bondi sues New York and its liberal leaders over sanctuary city policies. And let's see. So she says this is a new DOJ. We're taking steps to protect Americans. How's that for novelty?
What do you imagine that? You're going to protect Americans somehow?
A huge one. This probably is one that I want to talk to you about maybe at the head of current events. But Trump is brokering some peace between Russia and Ukraine. That's not the one. This is the one. Demanding Hamas he's also demanding Hamas release remaining hostages by Saturday. I haven't heard anything new on that in a couple of days, but Saturday's tomorrow. So that's really huge. We'll talk about that. Stuff about Netanyahu. Glenn Beck claims that the Epstein files will be released on day one of Kash Patel's confirmation, which is now about 5 to 6 days away, assuming he gets confirmed. That's major. We'll talk about that. And why the delay on JFK assassination file disclosure along with the other ones. We have info on that. But Merle, in the upfront part of this episode, we have a very serious subject matter that I know affects all of us to varying degrees, some of us very, very intimately. I have 2 friends that their offspring, one a son, one a daughter, has, how do you want to say, how is that said when they turn their back on their parents? Estranged. That's the word. Have become estranged over politics, over their political agendas. Let me lay this one out for you. Names are changed to protect identities, but this is Stacy's story. My friend of many years, of a couple decades, 59-year-old single mom, professional, highly competent, and fairly conservative, a very down-to-earth person. She has a daughter, Jessica, who's now about 25 or 26, right around there. She has embraced her progressive victimhood at about 17 or 18 years old with feelings of being oppressed as both a lesbian and as a girl in whatever other ways that may come about. Jessica has demanded to know Stacy, her mom's vote. This was prior to the election.
Right.
She threatened to reconsider their relationship if she voted for Trump. Stacy, the mom, has always given a neutral response, as in, voting is a private and personal matter. Charlie, knock it off. Okay, so her daughter, let's see. Jessica, the mom, private voting is personal and private response. Jessica now assumes that Stacy, the mom, is voting for Trump and
Right.
insists on them going to counseling together with her progressive therapist to talk this out.
Wow.
Indoctrination time.
Wow.
So,
That's mind blowing that you're going to insist your mom go to therapy
oh, that's
because
not
of
the
who you
only
voted for.
story. Not the only story like that.
But I
In
mean,
my
that
close
just the
circle of
I
friends.
can't even imagine wanting telling my dad that he needs to go to
Uh-huh.
therapy because of who he voted for. I can't even imagine what would happen to me after after that.
Well, for sure, that is absolutely a huge part of the subject here. That the change
There's no
it's not
respect.
we've allowed our offspring to become our parents.
You see
We
this all the
used to,
time now.
dude, when we were kids, it was all about self-esteem, and everybody always overcorrects. So our self-esteem was beaten to the ground. Most of us, all that. I know mine was. And
But
so
it was
now
funny.
everything came about self-esteem, 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 to the point where we in the entire country, we let the asylums run, let the inmates run the asylum. We let the kids, we've catered to the kids and whatever whims that they have, it's okay. Do you need a safe space? It's
Yeah.
okay. We'll accommodate. We'll give you a participation trophy. We all talked about the danger of participation trophies as that was
We sure
unfolding
did.
in the
Yeah.
late 90s.
We really did.
And here we are. And here we
We
are.
right exactly where we said we would be.
Right. So to end that particular story, Jessica, the daughter, almost never speaks to her mother now unless it's absolutely necessary about a holiday coming up or something. Even then she may not return text. So it's one is very immature for this 25-year-old, but it's incredibly disrespectful. All right, I have a story from my friend Dave's point of view. His son. Now, my friend Dave, a working class guy, worked his ass off to send his kid to private schools and then to college, and nearly declared bankruptcy during that period of time. But still, son and daughter came first, and he made it happen. Sends him out to a progressive college. His son comes back gay and oppressed and victimized and looking for his victimhood. So he throws his dad under the bus, creates lies saying, we knew, first of all, we knew he was gay before he went to college.
Right. Okay. So
We
he
were
didn't
fine.
become gay at college.
He
He
came
was
out
before.
and it
Yeah.
became
He
his identity.
right, right,
And we didn't care, still don't
right,
care.
right.
Uh, but he made up stories, and I pieced this together in retrospect. Like, oh, he gets in with his clique of friends and looks around. Oh, everybody's got their story of victimhood, of how their parents are oppressing them, their dads are
Okay.
horrible people, and all that.
Right.
He came up and he came out to the family and said how his father was didn't accept him, turned it back. All lies, complete lies. Even his now deceased grandmother, God bless her heart, who never sided with my friend Dave on anything, sided with my friend Dave and said, "Whoa, man, you're making up stories in the
Right.
family. Not
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah.
Been about 5 years. The son has still not spoken to his father,
Not
Dave,
spoken to.
over these lies. How do you sleep at night? How do you do this? These kids are turning their back on their parents. This isn't new. I have data on this. How
No.
common is this? Surveys and reports 50% of Americans are estranged from a close family member. Half of us are estranged from a close family. 20% say political differences are the primary reason. Younger adults under 35 are much more likely to cut off family over politics because we brainwash them to do that. We'll
That's
talk
why.
about it.
Yeah.
Estrangement over political beliefs has skyrocketed since 2016. What happened in 2016?
Well, Trump was elected.
For the first time, he enters the big stage in a big way. All right, the source on this is Time Magazine. So, why younger generations are doing this? Many see the political beliefs as part of their core identity not just their opinions, their identity. They view disagreements as moral betrayals rather than just a difference in perspective. And this is huge.
That is
Encouraged,
huge.
this is like the main point. Encouraged by academia, social media, and progressive therapists to cut off their toxic relationships with their conservative family members. Dude.
You know, I was thinking, you said so many things that I could comment on. We might have to go dissect everything that you said because there's so much stuff here. Obviously, this is a crisis that we're dealing with here in this country, especially, but I think it's around the world. I think this is a worldwide phenomenon that's happening right now. But, of course, we see it through our own lens. There's been a change, obviously, that's happened here. We can look at all of the physical traits of it. This respect for your parents has gone down in a deep way. There's many reasons for it. We've seen it. You talked about the participation awards and things like that. We've damaged the whole concept of the merit system, which is really ingrained in our DNA. The competition is ingrained in the human DNA.
It's human nature.
It's human nature. And when you try to ignore that and take that away, you're going to have consequences. The one thing I wanted to capitalize on right here is what you said about how politics has become an identity for young people as opposed to the opinion that you have about a certain thing. And I was about to say exactly that Christianity for me is my identity. It's what some would say that's my religion. I reject that. But we won't go down that rabbit hole, but that is an identity that we have. And really, if you take a look at American history, Christianity is very central to American history, as you know. This whole thing about the conservative value of God, family, and country is rooted in that faith. And if you follow God, you're naturally going to take care of your family, and the country is going to be very united as a result of that. Everybody taking care of their own stuff causes it, and looking out for their neighbor, loving their neighbor, actually causes a harmony in society, and it's rooted in God's love. What we're seeing right now is the opposite thing that's happening here. And when you make your identity any political standpoint, if that becomes your identity, that actually becomes your religion. And a religion that is false is a cult. You take a look at, well, who are the leaders of this religion? They're people that are deeply flawed, and people are deeply flawed, and you're going to have this. So I see that when you make politics your identity, you're naturally going to have this kind of conflict. And this whole rejection of your parents because of who they voted for is absolutely unheard of. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that until the last 5 to 10 years. And I've got lots of friends that I can point to and say, this is happening between them and their children right this very minute. And if you as a parent at our age don't capitulate to their will, you get written off. I mean, I'm thinking of a very close friend right now that hasn't had a relationship with 2 of his sons, and this is over the vaccination. And the vaccination was a big part of this. It became politicized. And it's like I heard these people in Washington protesting the other day, and they were singing this really ridiculous song. But it was they kept coming back to the chorus, which is, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? And this is just a division. I believe that's a song rooted in the Civil War, actually. I think they dug that up from the Civil War. And so this is just pitting us against each other. and it's almost become a religious war, and we've
Dude,
seen
you're
these religious wars in the past. They are brutal, they're disgusting,
mhm.
they're blood, people become bloodthirsty, there's no love, it's devoid of love, and really it's devilish. This is an open window for evil to just come right in and steal everything that you have. And
United we stand, divided we fall. And there has been a big push to keep us divided. And it's not just politically. You can go on the Daily Mail, which I like to look for the latest sensational news. And this morning, I forget the article, but it was just which team are you on? And
yeah,
someone's going through a divorce. Oh, I'm team this. There's this long ongoing saga with Blake Lively and her producer on a movie that
mm,
they're suing each other or something, and it's which team are you on, and everything's about that. And I understand if you're one the Pareto principle, if you're part of the 80%, you're just working trying to get through this very hard life, you're not really all that astute about all this, inside workings that are going on, and you don't care. You're finding entertainment just out of pulling these things up and choosing your team and throwing out some emotional comments on there. And
yeah,
but what you don't realize is that there is a deeper rooted. It's infesting our society and keeping us divided. It is a tactic that is
it
being
really
used
is.
effectively. It started with the infiltration of our school systems through started in the early 90s and really I think it completely taken over by 2000, early 2000s. Now those people that had gotten their indoctrination were now teaching our kids. That's when
Yes.
these kids went off to these progressive colleges and come back like, whoa. When my friend Dave's son came back, announced all of his victimhood and made up the stories of his oppression, that was before I knew the term woke. That was my introduction to what woke was. Find
Mm,
your victimhood and claim that you're oppressed in some kind of a way, but you're going to be calling your friends and family bigots. That's
yeah.
the bottom
Yeah.
line.
Well, you know what's interesting, and you sent me the clip of what we were going to talk about an hour before our show, and I read through it, and I had a chance to really think about what you sent to me. And one of the things that I thought about, we talked about how, well, where did this start? I can't really put my finger on where this started, but this isn't new. This has been an ongoing thing. You talked about the 90s. We talked about this book on the show about a year ago, and a lot of people went out and bought the book right after. It's by She Van Fleet. It's
Mm.
called Mao's America.
Hmm.
She's the one that actually came over here after the Cultural Revolution and just was so thankful to be here. And then she became a real star here in America through that louder, what was it called, the Louderville, where they were trying to in
Loudonville,
Loudonville, where they were trying to
Virginia.
inflict critical race theory on
That's where
people. And
critical race theory kind of came about, and all of a sudden, parents were going, "Wow, we might need to start paying attention to what's going on in our school boards."
and really it's so hypocritical when we see what's happening at the Department of Education right now, and how these same
It's
people
nice
that
to see,
that
though.
got the FBI to investigate parents that were concerned about their kids who were
Good
inflicted
point.
by critical race theory. They sicked the FBI on them and called them domestic terrorists, and now they act like they're protecting children and the parents through this Department of Justice. We got to talk about that later on. But here's the point: She Van Fleet started talking about her experience in Red China during the Cultural Revolution. And it was all of the trappings that we see today that are happening with this separation between parents, young people, and the older generations. All of it. It's the same playbook. It's the exact same thing. The net result of Mao's Cultural Revolution was the complete destruction of China's fabric of relationships within families. The young people were never reunited with the older people. It caused a ripple effect through their society, ultimately causing this terrible financial crisis because all of their businesses became ruined, much like we're seeing today, where our businesses have been looted by these young people who believe in that somehow they're receiving reparations that somehow they think are owed to them because of this victim mentality that's happening. This victim mentality is straight out of hell. It's exactly what Satan would want you to believe, is that you don't have a chance, you have no hope in your future, and you might as well steal, rob, and kill. Those are the attributes of Satan. That's exactly what we're seeing right here. And when we see these older people that are so-called conservatives, usually what they're trying to conserve here is the way of thinking that's happened for thousands of years, where they want to live in harmony with God. They believe that their family is their greatest resource, and the country around them are the people, their neighbors that they love, and know that if the chips are down, we're going to lock arms and we're going to fight the monster together. Look, a monster can't survive in a community like that, because it's going to be death by 1,000 pinpricks, right? But if you divide the people, the monster can rampage. And that is exactly what we're seeing today, is that our society is being set up for the monster to rampage. And we're seeing it. But I have hope, Barry. I see that these things are turning around. And for family members out there, I would recommend the most powerful tool that's out there. And that is that this is a spiritual battle that we're dealing with, and we can't fight a spiritual battle with physical weapons. We have to fight a spiritual battle with spiritual weapons, and the most powerful weapon that we have is forgiveness. And what we have to do, Barry,
you said forgiveness, right?
Forgiveness
Your
is the powerful
audio's
weapon.
not so good. Okay. All right. I have a few bullet points, psychological and cultural factors on the victimhood economy. Victimhood economy. Many young people see victim status provides social and emotional benefits. That's huge. Think about, oh, I'm trans now. I was, a lonely wallflower of a nerd, and now all of a sudden I come out as trans, and now I'm a superhero in my school. They may feel morally superior by rejecting those they perceive as oppressors. They feel morally superior. So they may even turn their back on their loving family members so that they can feel superior. And my God, that is what but we've allowed it. We let the kids become the parents. Progressive therapy often encourages cutting ties with toxic people, frequently means conservatives. So how should we handle this? All right, this from the same Times article, I do believe. How should we handle it? Don't cave to emotional blackmail. Stacy's response, refusing to go to counseling and instead offering an adult conversation, was strong and correct. Giving in to ideological demands only reinforces that behavior. To your point, Merle, I think you were saying, and this is in a less religious way, but you're saying the same thing. Keep the lines of communication open. Avoid political discussions when possible. Emphasize love and family. If engaged, use questioning tactics. You're good at this. Use questioning tactics to challenge ideas rather than debating directly. This is called the Socratic method, as in Socrates.
Which model is awesome.
Model emotional resilience. Don't get baited into emotional fights. Now, these are incredibly important. I find myself, I get it from both sides because I claim to be an independent and I don't identify with a team. And so when you talk to people that heavily identify with a team, you get thrust upon the other team. Because that's how it's seen. If you're not on my team, you must be on the other team. And so I do get it from both sides, but if you don't identify with a team, you really don't get emotionally triggered. because they can insult your team, that their perceived version of your team all day long. If you don't identify with it, you don't care. Just listen. Go ahead and keep listening, but ask questions. What I find a lot of times is they have the talking points, but they don't have facts to back it up. They don't know the whole story.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead and talk it through. And if you stay calm, you can turn it into a rational conversation
Well, Barry,
and save their face, save face for them. Let
the
them save
whole
face.
critical thinking skills that we've talked so much about on this show goes out the window if you're identifying with your opinion, like that your opinion is you. It's hard to separate yourself from your opinion and have critical thinking skills when you're being attacked, or your opinion is being attacked because you think you're being attacked.
Yeah, good point.
And that's when you get into the whole emotional thing where you can't, so there's no strategy when you become emotional, and you can't ask those very pertinent questions to cause people to think about how they're thinking, because you're not thinking about how you're thinking. You're just in emotion mode. And that's how things break down. And I got a question for you, Barry. Like, I'm sure this, I believe, has touched everyone very personally. I know that it
Seems
has
to.
me as
Yeah.
well. And I've lost some friends
Yeah.
by things I've said right here on the show. I've lost some friends that way, and it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that that's happened. However, I feel like if I try to put myself in their shoes and realize that I've acted in ways like this in the past, and it was because
Yes.
of erroneous thinking, and that this could happen to anybody. And therefore, how do I want to be treated the next time I actually cross that line? I think that's a big way of being able to take the emotion out of it when you're dealing with a situation like this, so that when you do have an opportunity to speak with this person, that all those bitter feelings kind of ebb away, and you're able to have a very um, loving conversation,
Yeah.
or a non-confrontational conversation, or you can take their confrontational comments and absorb those and not respond in kind.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way that we can bring people that are sort of these like prodigal children back into the fold. In fact, it's funny, that whole parable of the prodigal son, where he disrespects his father, I mean, in a big way, and then takes his inheritance before the dad dies, demands his inheritance, just uses his dad as a pinata, basically, and then goes out and spends all the money. But pretty soon he's broke and destitute. So he's going to
Yeah.
go back to his dad and ask his dad if he could just be a slave in his house because he doesn't deserve to be a son. And because
Wow.
at least he'll have something to eat, right? Because the end of the story for him was he was eating pig food. All right. And that's a bad deal for him. So he goes home with his tail between his legs, but his dad sees him coming from way off. And his dad, he becomes undignified. He lifts up his robe so that he can run. This is being undignified, and he runs to his son, and his son is trying to say, I'm sorry for what I did. But before he could say all of his speech that he had, his dad just embraces him and is kissing him, and is like, my son is alive, he's alive. And he demands his servants, go kill the fatted calf, we're having a party tonight, my son is back. And he puts the special family robe on him, and he puts sandals on his feet, and he gives him the signet ring, making him equal to his father. And so
Wow.
it
Doesn't
never.
sound like the proper response to me.
Now, it's a picture of who God is and what your relationship is with God. And see, people think that Christianity is this, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that in order to be accepted by God. But this blows that right out of the water. It's nothing like that. God loves you no matter what you've done. He
I get
loves
the
you.
forgiveness thing. I just
And
think
so
there's a
when you,
step in between of reconciliation.
I don't know though, Barry. The reconciliation part may never happen. That's the hard part about this is that the friends that I've lost, almost none of them have come back. And
Mhm.
so we may never, this may never happen, but you have to heal. And if you're harboring all of that bitterness, you're not going to heal. You're going to be
Oh, I
damaged
totally.
by the enemy. And so this is to me, I agree with you. The reconciliation is the next step. But to me, if you don't, if you don't pass go on this one, you're never going to get there. You just
Yeah.
get, because when you do get together with that person, you're going to harbor all that bitterness, and it's going to come right back to where you were before. Somebody's got to be the bigger person here.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. And it's
and
always
I
going to
think
be the
this is
person
it.
that was being accused of being the oppressor,
That's
because the
right.
person being accused of the victimizer is too small of a person.
Well, and that's it right there is this maturity. It's the if you think that you're a victim and everything that you do, you haven't grown up. I mean,
No.
this is it. Remember
And
how
you're
it was when
trying
we were
not to grow
kids?
up.
Remember how it was when we were kids, Barry? I can remember having coming home all mad about something that they wronged me about this,
I'll give you
and then
something to cry
tried to tell
about.
I tried to tell my dad about it. And it was by the time I left him, I realized that it was me and my crappy attitude, and
Yeah.
that's what needed to change, not the
Yeah.
situation. Those were the best lessons ever. But parents are not they've neglected their responsibility to teach their children that, and now we live in a society where the parents now have become the children because
Yeah.
they neglected that responsibility,
Yeah.
and the children are now dominating the parents. And I've seen so many times, especially this is a weird one around COVID again, because to me a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with got set on fire with COVID, because you had this shaming that happened. Especially you're seeing the shaming of the kids shaming the parents,
Yes.
and then caught with shame, and also the threat of being what
Ostracized.
would you call it? Yeah, you can't
Canceled.
be a part of the family. You're
Hmm.
canceled. You're
Hmm.
excommunicated from the
Hmm.
family if
Hmm.
you don't do X, Y, and Z. It's like
That's
you're being
exactly
held
right.
hostage by your
Yes.
children.
In
And
both of these personal cases, they are making demands of the
and
parent.
and this is it is that as a parent you have to have integrity, and if that means that the child is going to say, well, look, then you can't have my love, then I don't, does the child actually love you if they're going to do that? That doesn't sound like love to me. Love
No.
sounds a lot more like what the father did in the prodigal child parable, where you drop everything and it's really all about your child and loving that child, not what they did. And I can say this, that I'm so glad in my past with my parents, I really had an example of that, the prodigal son kind of thing, where I screwed up, but my parents still always welcomed me back, and hugged me and forgave me, and it changed me. It
Yeah.
changed everything about me, and that's why I'm saying this is a very, very powerful concept.
I understand. With that, to wrap up, I did a lot of research using AI on this one, and AI had suggested that I watch this video. And
Mm.
this is from Morin, the holistic therapist. And the subject of this video, this YouTube video, is Did Politics Tear Your Family Apart? I did listen to it. It's only 10 minutes. And I
Is your
just
family struggling
to
with
give you a
today's
sense.
political climate and trying to get along? Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about family estrangement and how to reconnect. Hey, it's a political atmosphere that is really, really challenging. And today,
I'm going to say we're not going to listen to the whole thing. I just wanted you to get her voice. She's got a little bit of that New York twang in it, kind of a Brooklyn sounding accent. She's very, very engaging. She doesn't waste any words in here. And you said something earlier that made me think of this video. She said, I've been on the wrong side of this argument before. I have made someone feel belittled because of their political thoughts or something like that. She goes, I really learned from it. So she gives all of those methods and until you hear it from her, it sounds kind of like therapy speak. Oh yeah, I'm going to sit there and listen to my kid tell me all about their stuff. Well, she just gives you some ways to do that, some ways to understand and ways to break down through defensiveness and your own defensiveness.
I like that.
So I will have the link to it in the show notes. And I would suggest maybe subscribing to her. She's really, really engaging. I got a lot out of that. And
I like what you're saying, ways to break down the defensiveness, because that's it right there. Somebody triggers your defense mechanism, and then before you know it, you're speaking at a whole different volume, and your face is real fierce. And it's important too. All of these nonverbals are important when you're having these conversations, and being aware of what your face is doing while you're having these kinds of conversations is a big deal also.
That's body language, all of that. You're right.
It is.
Right.
And that's why I go back to that whole forgiveness thing, because without that, your body is going to do these things, and it's going to be a tell. You know what I'm saying? It's like poker. Right. It's going to be a tell that you're still dealing with these emotional issues, and that's going to trigger some defensiveness on the other side. Your tone of voice too, like if you're talking like this, and you know what I'm saying, like it's gotta slow.
Well, dude, I can't hear you. Your mic is out. So what
I'm bummed out about that.
Yeah, what you need to do actually is remember that you love this other person, whether it's a friend or family member, and you don't want to hurt them. You don't want them to feel hurt. You don't want to destroy their worldview. You just want them to be able to accept a little bit more of yours as well.
Right. And I mean, what I have found is trying to have these conversations and convince them of your point of view can be futile. It can actually make it worse.
Don't convince them of your point of view. Just, what do you say? Applying for the opportunity to have it accepted that you have a different worldview. They don't have to accept yours.
No.
Just accept
and you don't have
there's
to
something
theirs.
Besides theirs. Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
And you have to, I feel like we have to love people despite what their opinions
disagree.
Are. Yeah, exactly. How many times have we done that on this show?
Absolutely. All the time, man. And I mean, there's nothing wrong. In fact, that's what makes the world go round. Thank God people have different opinions than me, because I've been wrong most of my life. I keep evolving my thoughts, and I'm at an age and a period of time where it's like, can't wait to see what I think 10 years from now, because it's going to be really wild compared to what I think now.
Well, here's the other thing too, is that if you can have a friend that has very different opinions than you, but you still love and respect each other, you got a real friend. And you know it. That's the litmus test, right?
That's a really good one.
Agree with everything the other person says. And I mean,
that's an enabler. That's you. That's when you're
right about that.
As in these situations, you're demanding enablers in your circle.
There it is.
So that you could stay immature and undeveloped.
Immature as I don't know what. Right. It's like, again, you have
to. It's disgusting.
We're enabling these young people to not grow up. And I just remember those lessons when I was growing up. It was sort of like tough, shake it off, walk it off. You'll be fine, right? Oh, you're crying about that? I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah. You know what
that's how life is, man.
This is totally off the cuff, but also in that Daily Mail, every day they've been posting these pictures of Justin Bieber.
Yes.
Yeah, he's walking around, I believe it's New York, or maybe it's LA, in a robe and slippers and looking terrible.
Looking like he's homeless.
Cry out for help. It's an everyday cry out for help. So obviously he doesn't have a real father in his life. No. Just one that exploited him as a child. And he's crying out for a father figure. He's crying out for help. But I think that as his world has developed in a very unique way, a child star that had been granted godlike status and has created a bubble around him of enablers that enable him, his world has come crashing down around him. He doesn't know how to cope with the hard stuff now. He doesn't know he's crippled by the emotional feelings, the emotional, he's been backed into a corner emotionally.
And so many of these people in Hollywood that were child stars end up that way. And again, it's because we don't actually train them how to grow up, because we give them whatever they want. We give it to them. They don't have to deal with the growing pains that everybody else
look
does.
What happens.
Yeah. And so then, it's almost like you've been in a wheelchair. You can walk, but you've been in a wheelchair all your life. And then now you're 21. Okay, now run around the block. You're not going to be able, you don't have the strength to do that. So this is, it's terrible what's happening. I hope that we change it around. I think our educational system, as you brought up several times, has a lot to do with this. As we talked about,
really seeing change starting to happen.
Well, as we talked about, is that, we saw what was happening at the Department of Education this week, where you had a contingent of Congress down there in front of the door. Did you see the video of that Maxine Waters and what she was saying down there? I mean, first of all, I have absolutely no respect for Maxine Waters.
Zero.
I think it makes me wonder.
Contingency, man.
I mean, but these people are the ones, first off, the way they treated that security guard outside of that door and said, you're a security guard and you're going to stop me. Do you know what Congress is? I mean, they were asking such demeaning questions of this person. Let me see your ID. That's how Maxine Waters was. The guy pulls out his ID and she smacks it away. That's nothing. And it's like, well, now, if the shoe were on the other foot and it was Maxine Waters, let's say we didn't know her name, and there was a bunch of white people there that talked to her like that, it would be the victim thing. They're treating me like I'm a slave and all of this, and look what this white privileged man is doing. Well, when you do it to somebody that's white, is it less evil? No, it's not. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what color you are. It's a matter of treating people with respect. But when you look at our leaders that absolutely don't respect us, and they talk to the security guard and say, we pay you. In other words, you work for us. Let's think about that, because I think that's a pretty big deal right there, where it appears that the people in Congress believe that we all work for them, when this is supposed to be government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So they work for us. In fact, we pay them.
Dude, it's very symbolic of exactly what we were talking about with the kids running the asylum now, where the
same thing.
It's the same thing.
Upside down.
Yeah, and it's right down to the local level. If you got a problem with your local city council or mayor or something, you will have to tell them that they work for you. You will have to tell them and remind them of that, because they do not behave that way on a daily basis. Do you want to see a little video of Maxine in action?
I would love to.
Okay.
We're coming in. Don't lock the door. We're coming in. Who are you?
You're not coming in.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
This one guy against all of us.
I've sent the assistant secretary a letter alerting her that we would be here today, and we've asked her for a meeting.
Yeah,
quite a man.
Accepted, sir, until that's accepted.
Who are you? And what do you do here?
What do you do here?
Security responsibility.
Get out of the way. We pay for your job. We pay you.
We're members
Get out of the way.
Nobody has accepted a meeting.
You are.
We haven't heard that from the secretary. We haven't heard that from the spokesman.
I'm relaying that.
You are not the spokesman for the department. You are a security guard.
Can you identify?
I already did.
We're members of Congress.
Where's your bag? Where's your bag?
Where's your bag? Where's your bag?
Where's your ID? Where's your ID?
We are not.
It's not good enough.
We are not.
They want to close the Department of Education. They want to cut back on funding for low-income.
Oh, that guy's like 160 pounds, but he just put up with it all. That was
that
good.
That guy should be given a raise for how he dealt with that. That guy gets promoted in my world.
Right.
He did a great job of just what we talked about. He didn't get emotional. He didn't fall into their little game. They insulted him. They called him, "You're a security guard." Like they demeaned him, and he just stayed steady
ID
and calm. He never raised his voice. Yeah, that's not. Why did you ask for the ID then? I don't even understand. But I heard Maxine Waters in the background saying that, trying to say that she was there to protect this man's kids. And I mean, what about that spells protection for children, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, and here's the other thing too, a couple of observations. One is when they think they're so important that they have to grandstand and make this big announcement, and they move their hands a lot too, highly of themselves. And now you got a whole group of those people that now they're battling each other for the stage. I don't know if you watch the whole video, they're all trying to push each other out of the way so they can be in the center of the camera and make this grand announcement.
I remember another woman in a longer version of that making a speech.
All of them wanted to make a speech right there, and they couldn't wait to say their part so that they could see it on CNN later that day. It's like they're so full of themselves right there. It's sick. It's almost like you've eaten too much candy and now you're sick, because that's what those people are. I can't even believe they could look themselves in the mirror when this is the job that you do. You talk about how much you care about people, but then you go and you treat them like slaves like this. And the last thing I got to say about the Department of Education, they seem so concerned about the Department of Education and their access to the Department of Education. But what we've seen since the Department of Education came online in 1977, that's right. It's only been around since 1977. We've seen scores lowered in math, reading, and science since
the chart then would be a very
it's a slope. Like you could go skiing on this slope that we're talking about right now. So there's no justification for the Department of Education. They've spent tons of money, but where were they before that? These were a group of Democrats. I'm sorry, but I am not letting the Republicans off the hook on this. They both collapsed. This has been around. It's sort of like USAID. It's been around since Kennedy. Okay, Republicans and Democrats alike have been able. This has happened under their noses. It seems like we're just attacking Democrats on this, but because they're very leftist items we spent money on. But you know what, Republicans, this happened under your watch, and we never heard about this until now. So where the hell were you?
Well,
and doesn't that make them just as guilty?
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
To that point, Trump was elected because he wasn't really a Republican. He's an outsider with a team of outsiders.
That is correct.
And that's really important to keep in mind. I've had no love for the Republican Party whatsoever, because I've called them consistently for the last couple of years the appeasement party. They've just been there to give the appearance of having an opposing a two-party system. Remember, there were no prosecutions for any of the election interference and just mean tweets every now and then. That was the extent. We started off this podcast talking a lot about, oh my God, that was an egregious breaking of the law there. And wow, wait till you see this prosecution. And now we finally came to the conclusion, oh, people don't get prosecuted. They don't get charged. They just get mean tweets for a week or two. And so, that's the difference that has happened is that which is why people on the inside of Washington have hated Trump, which is why the propaganda machine had been instructed to pump out Trump hate to the point of brainwashing a large segment, at least 20% of the population against Trump, is the fear. This is an outsider that threatens the entire system. There's been as we see, way too many people getting fat on taxpayer dollars, and it's been unsustainable. And dude, we always talk about the pendulum swinging and just can that pendulum start swinging the other way now? How far does it have to go? Well, geez, man, it was like a guillotine going halfway through the neck before it stopped.
I'm telling you, Barry, it was, I was starting to get worried that the pendulum thing was broken. Like it just like came off the hook and just, it's not going to come back. It's just going to keep going off to the left here. And the interesting thing is how quickly things came, like how quickly that pendulum started coming back the other way. I mean, look, we're only 3 weeks into this Trump presidency, and already you take a look at USAID, billions and billions of dollars that are wasted there. We've got exposure on the Department of Education. We've got exposure on the EPA, where we're seeing that billions of dollars of waste was spent there as well on the same items at USAID. We're now looking at, Trump just ordered the audit of the IRS. Imagine what we're going to see. That just
yesterday?
happened last night. Yes.
Okay.
So
that's awesome, man.
This is coming next. And this is the part, Barry, that I'm thinking about is like, we're coming up on tax day every year at this time of the year. I've got this burden, we all do, about, oh my God, I got to collect all these receipts. I got to freaking arrange this. I got to pay I got an accountant because I don't want to get screwed. And now I got to pay that guy. And because if I don't get this stuff in by the 15th, I'm going to have to pay these huge penalties and this and that and the other. And I don't want these guys.
It's worse than killing a person.
Now they're armed. They got 87,000 of them that now carry guns, accountants with guns. And so now we're exposing all of this waste, and you're seeing these people in the government that are making all kinds of noise right now, and how Trump can't do that. He can't do this. This is a violation of our privacy. And I just have to say, let's reframe that a little bit. It's not Trump can't do this. It's you, the people. We, the people, can't do it. We voted the popular vote. This is what Trump ran on. And the majority of the people voted on, that was the center of his campaign. So the people, we, the people, want to see this. But when back to this whole thing of who's the boss here, when the government wants to see our tax returns, if we even peep, they're sending people over to our house. You don't have that right. But if we want to see their stuff, it's a big problem here. You're not allowed to see that. This is a violation. This is a constitutional crisis. Well, show me in the Constitution where this is a crisis. The problem is nobody reads the Constitution. Nobody understands the foundation of the Constitution as the Declaration of Independence, where we have the right to life, liberty, and happiness, and it's government of the people, by the people, for the people. So you work for us. And it further says that if that changes in any way, we, the people, need to kick some butt and change it back to the way it's supposed to be again. That seems to be the crossroads that we find ourselves at.
I think that was a really, really well put. And I think it's a good place for me to put a little perspective on this as we dive further into our current events. This has been a global phenomenon that has been going on. We're very caught up in our world, and it's Trump world, thanks to the media. Well, the truth of the matter is that there's been a very strong globalist entity that's been trying to take over the entire world. And there's been a lot of pushback, and I got to give credit where credit is due. The blueprint has been laid with Javier Milei in Argentina, a country that just is, the United States followed in their footsteps, but right down to the brink of absolute disaster. And he has turned it around very, very quickly. Libertarian president who has been turning around way quicker than he ever promised. And so a big, kudos to him and what he's been doing there. But the UK has been feeling all of the same stuff, the same pressure of the woke environment. Canada has demanded Trudeau's resignation, which he has thrown out there, and then he keeps walking it back. I'm not sure what he's trying to do there. But this, I didn't know this. I got this paragraph for you. German election polls indicate conservative lead. As Germany approaches its parliamentary election on February 23rd, polls show the conservative CDU-CSU party, led by Friedrich Merz, in the lead with around 30% of.
Did you say Frederick Mertz?
Friedrich.
That's from
Friedrich.
Lucille Ball. Fred Mertz. He was their friend.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that. Friedrich.
Okay,
I did mispronounce it.
Friedrich. Okay.
Friedrich
Right,
Merz. Could be Merz.
Fred
in
Mertz.
the lead with around 30% of support. The far right follows in the low 20s, and while the Green Party vie for third place. The election is set against a backdrop of economic challenges and debates over immigration policies. Same shit. Economic challenges and immigration. So
Yes.
Germany is also turning their back on all that crap and turning around.
We'll get this too in the news right now. At least 26 injured in terrorist attack in Munich. So 26 people injured Thursday as a car rammed into a crowd in Germany, Munich, Germany, according to local reports. The incident was a possible terrorist attack. They're saying that far left militant extremists are taking to the streets of Munich to intimidate a small group of friends and family members of the victims of today's Islamic car ramming attack. It's a car ramming attack. The small group gathered to protest open borders, but was attacked by people shouting fascists.
Wow.
So this is heating up. This is heating up all over the world as you're talking about, Barry. In the UK, we're seeing just unreal violations against human rights in the name of this diversity that they want. All of these migrants that have come into town, the people are being oppressed. The people of the UK are being oppressed. Rapes are at an all-time high. Yes. There's all kinds of violence that's happening, and the political apparatus in the UK favors these outsiders more than the citizens themselves. And we were looking at a possible scenario like that as we come into America, and we look at how the previous administration was just hemorrhaging money out to these illegal immigrants that came into the country. It says here, Biden's HHS, what is it? Homeland Security left taxpayers on the hook for $22.6 billion for giveaways to illegal immigrants. The department ramped up grants for migrants from 2020 to 24, which included cash assistance to buy cars, homes, and even build credit to start up businesses, according to a shocking watchdog report that found taxpayers were left on the hook for $22.6 billion over that short period of time. So this is what we're seeing, is that, just like in Germany, we are taking our lifeblood and we're giving it away to people that want our country to be destroyed. And it's working. And so these things are being turned around. I mentioned the EPA. Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, now finds $20 billion of taxpayer money Biden's EPA sought to stash away. They're calling it the tossing of gold bars off the Titanic. Once President Trump got elected, this EPA was just hemorrhaging money, giveaways, just giving to the people that are supporting them to the tune of $20 billion. So what we're seeing right now is a war. It looks like a war for our very lifeblood. And you mentioned that Trump is an outsider. And the way that I see it is exactly the way you see it, is that this last election was a rejection of the status quo of our political system. And no wonder they tried to kill him. I mean, this is a big threat. If you're on the teat of the government, the way that this is, and you're getting billions and billions of dollars, that's blood money right there. And it's that's like, look, if you tried to take that kind of money away from the mafia, what would happen? It would be blood. There would be blood in the streets. These people are worse than the mafia. And so this is, like we said in the last show, we're at the tip of the iceberg. There's a war that's happening. It's going to get violent. We're going to see blood. We're already starting to see this. News in the news today. You're seeing where President Trump we talked about the cartels. You're seeing where President Trump now is using our spy planes to map out where these terrorist cells are. Or I'm sorry, well, they're terrorist cells now. The what do you call it? The Mexican cartels. These people are NFL not for long, man. They're gonna be toast. There's no way they can compete against the might of the American military, and we're gonna see. These are changes that are happening right now, but it's going to be ugly for a time.
Well, it is. With that, I think that we should do a little segue into the breaking news about the DOGE investigation finally forces Congress to admit that the U.S. government has a long history of financing Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and ISIS. I have video on that.
Yeah, let's see that.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. It's from your boy, Alex Jones.
My boy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Dude, it's well.
I gotta say, I've been loving this guy lately.
He's been strong. He has been strong.
And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million.
In cash.
Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarajuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room?
This is crazy.
Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think...
I got to stop for a second. We will continue. We're funding ISIS terrorist camps.
Yes.
I just wanted to make that clear.
And that's to the tune
of almost $750 billion a year.
Why do you think that is?
Dude, you tell me. I think it's because of the kickbacks that are coming through the military-industrial complex.
That's exactly what it is, Barry. This is a globalist push. The military-industrial complex is their cash cow.
Yeah.
And so what they do, and they've done this for decades now, is they finance both sides of the war to keep the blood flowing, because blood and money go together for them. The killing business is the biggest business that's out there.
Yeah.
It's only second to the sex slavery business.
God. All right.
The program.
No, go ahead. What?
It's the military-industrial complex first, and then the sex slavery thing comes after that, and then the drug thing comes after that. We're being inflicted by all three.
All heinous.
Under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are.
It goes on for a half hour, but that's
it's crazy what this guy says. I saw part of it too.
It makes my blood boil.
Yep, mine too.
All of our blood should be boiling. So,
and this is, if these people that are protesting out in the street about the this is a violation of our privacy, this has nothing to do with that. This is all about government of the people, by the people. Who's in charge? Who's the tail and who's the head here? We are supposed to be the head. We, the people, we make these decisions. They're giving money to people that want to kill us. We're financing people to kill us. But the crazy thing about that story is that when you really go back and start to look at the real history, we've been doing it for a good part of our history since the turn of the century, the 20th century. Starting in the 1900s, we started to, really a little before that, we started to finance our own demise. And slowly but surely, this has metastasized and become what it is today. And so this is a long game that they're playing. And it's actually astounding to see how it's working. I love that the revelation has happened, that the curtain has been pulled back, and now we can see. And really, it's one of those things, like it's almost like looking at the sun, right? It's like you got to just kind of look at little cracks of it first, because if you try to look at the whole thing, you're going to go blind.
Yeah,
It's going to overwhelm you.
Well, make no mistake, is positive. Because we've been taken by surprise. We've been just shocked and amazed, shock and awe over what's happened. But dude, we're in for some rough patches, and it's going to hit the economy in various ways and various times. And I know that that's what the mainstream media is talking about at every corner, because that's the biggest threat that they could give to the American people. And when it's like climate change, oh, well, yeah, a hurricane is going to come about at some point, and some really crazy ass weather is going to happen at some point. Then they're going to point it out and say, see, that's proof. And that's what they're going to do with this whole economy, with the whole Trump, Trump administration, is as soon as we hit a rough patch, they're going to say, see, the sky is falling. Told you.
Well, and I think one of them is going to be, because you really were taking a big hatchet to this operation. It's not surgical tools. It seems like a hatchet. And what's going to happen, I believe, is that there are worthy causes that could get caught up in this net. And I believe that's going to be the small majority, but I think the detractors are going to look for the needle in the haystack,
just
and
like the illegal immigrants,
and make a mountain into or a molehill into a mountain, I guess you would say, and say, oh, see, these people here are being oppressed by Donald Trump. And you're already seeing that on social media, where I just read something today. It was on Facebook, an old acquaintance of mine from Facebook that was saying, if you voted for this monster, F you, I never want to talk to you again. Back to the beginning thing that we talked about. And it's like, I just have to say this, is that she actually said that she used to work for a USAID, which I can't doubt that she did or not. But I just wonder, because she was talking about all the worthy causes that she worked for. I don't doubt that. I'm sure there are some worthy causes out there. We just don't know about them right now. But this whole attitude of, hey, don't ever talk to me again, is so, I mean, this is a person our age. It seems like there's a mental problem out there. Going back to the beginning, you made some really good points about how it's one side that says, I never want to talk to you again. And the other side says, okay, well, if you want to come and talk to me again, when you're ready to come and talk to me,
has to stand up, take it. Yeah.
And I remember being a kid and having, problems with emotions, and my mother telling me, when you're ready to have an adult conversation, come back and talk to me, and how I would go away and fume and everything. And then I'd come back and I would be like, okay, I'm sorry about that.
You know what I remember is you telling me, I'll never forget that. There's so many lessons from your childhood that I never forgot. You tell me in college about the time you're having a temper tantrum in front of your great big giant dad, and going, I can't help how I feel. And he goes, yes, you can.
Yes. And I was referencing
very simple, but it was a very simple lesson learned right there. Okay. So I am going to go to a share. This is about Pam Bondi sues New York and its liberal leaders over the sanctuary city policies as Trump cracks down on migrants. So they're suing New York. And I want to also mention in this article how she said they are also suing New York Attorney General Letitia James and Mark Schroeder. Alvin Bragg is in there as well. These are separate lawsuits, as I recall, but let's listen to a little bit of this.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next.
Jeez, man.
Don't you love that?
That's some powerful stuff right there.
That's some cowboy stuff right there, boy.
Well, here's why it really gets me, is because when the DOJ was instrumental in going after Trump in very unconstitutional, treasonous acts, how do we ever reclaim this country?
Yeah.
And we did.
Yes.
We did.
Look at what's happening. Boy, I really love that Pam Bondi too, the way that
So anyways, it sounds like New York is following suit, and I think other people are going to be thinking twice about messing around with the DOJ. Also, I just read this morning that, of course, Gavin Newsom is bowing and kissing the ring because he has no spine for anything except self-absorbed political aspirations himself.
Well, and I think Gavin ought to be concerned as he takes a look at what's happening in New York and also in Illinois. He is just as guilty as they are regarding the illegal immigrant situation and the crime situation. The case in point here today in the news is that In-N-Out, the famous burger restaurant in California, is moving out of California.
I didn't know that.
They are moving to Nashville.
They love it there.
Oh, they do. It says that the burger company is fleeing, and they announced that it'll close its office in Irvine as the company is
just
set
its
to,
corporate headquarters.
to split its corporate workforce between California and Tennessee. In-N-Out said Monday that many of its California corporate employees will move. The company had been in Irvine since '94. But this is it says Gavin Newsom's lawless California forced In-N-Out to close their first location in their company's history. Now they're building a new corporate headquarters in Tennessee. So we started seeing In-N-Out burgers actually closing, not the corporate, but the restaurant.
That'll kill those people. For the first time,
we never seen that before in California, because if you're in California and you pass an In-N-Out, you're going to have to move out of the way of the line that wraps outside of the building into the street. That's how popular it is.
It is. Yeah.
But because of what we've seen lately in California, businesses are fleeing for the hills. It is, and this is having a detrimental effect on the lifestyle for those people in California. It just keeps getting worse and worse. But it's sort of like the frogs in the water in the boiling pot, where it's not boiling yet. It's just getting warmer and warmer, and they're like, "What? I don't feel anything." It kind of seems like that's what's happening over there.
Interesting. Just moving along, because frankly, we're already at an hour and a half. What do you think about Trump makes bold demands on Hamas to release the hostages by tomorrow?
Yeah. So I've also seen an update on that. Let's see if I can find this. So I personally like that he does that, because here's the thing: is that every negotiation we've seen so far that Trump is in, he does this saber rattling beforehand, and then there's these conversations that happen that we don't actually get to hear, and then the next thing we hear is, oh yeah, they're really smart people, and here's what they decided to do. And so now I can't pull this up, but what I saw was that the negotiations broke down earlier Monday, actually, when Hamas said they weren't going to actually return any more of the hostages because they were accusing Israel of breaking the ceasefire agreement. Actually, when you look at what happened, they both broke their ceasefire agreement. A rocket was actually fired from Gaza. It landed in Gaza. But the Israelis actually took out the launch site. So they were both guilty of the ceasefire. In the midst of that, President Trump found out that that's what Hamas said. And now he has said, look, all hell's going to break loose if they don't return all of the hostages. as of today, what's happening is that the negotiations are back on. The Hamas is saying that they are going back to their original agreement, which was this Saturday. They're going to release 3 more hostages. Now, if they don't release all of their hostages, what Trump said in that speech was that he would defer to Netanyahu and Israel on what they decide, that he would reverse his opinion based on what they said. And I think that as long as Hamas is letting those is releasing those prisoners, that they're going to just keep moving that along. However, when you take a look at the last 3 that were released, they were practically starved to death. And we're hearing that a lot of these Hamas people have been, here's something right here. We're hearing now that that the second phase is now with this is approaching, and that second phase is the actual end of the war. So I kind of feel like Trump isn't going to do anything, but when he did say that, it does seem to cause action to happen. And I think the reason that action happens when he says stuff like that is that it's not an empty threat like we've heard in the past. Well, oh, if you cross this red line, this is going to happen, and then nothing happens. With Trump, if you cross the red line, something's going to happen, and something really bad is going to happen, and everybody knows it. Everyone knows it.
Yeah, right. I just move it along, and you can go wherever you want. Certainly, that's fine. I wanted to see what 2 thoughts. One about Glenn Beck saying Epstein files should be released on day 1 if he expects Kash Patel to be confirmed. FBI folks are not happy about Kash Patel. I'll certainly say that.
I don't blame them.
I don't blame them one bit. What do you think? What do you think about these Epstein files? For that matter, it kind of goes along with the whole JFK, RFK, MLK files. I
think they're highly related.
Yeah. And why do they take so long? Like on one hand, it seems to me, well, if I say release the files, get them over to me by this afternoon. Well, it doesn't work like that. I looked that up just to shed some light on it. There are volumes and volumes of documents that many, many people have not seen. FBI recently discovered approximately 2,400 previously unseen records totaling 14,000 pages related to the JFK assassination. Reviewing the substantial volume requires significant time and resources, says the New York Post. The declassification process, each document must undergo declassification review to ensure it's not releasing classified information to compromise national security, intelligence operations, and foreign relations. It's a meticulous process that contributes heavily to the delay, says whitehouse.gov. Finally, historical precedents, that's BS. Oh, because they did it before in the past. That's why they do it now. RFK Jr. confirmed as, that's different news, confirmed as Secretary of Health.
Well, that's great news right there.
But that's amazing.
Yeah, it's earth shaking is what it is. But going back to the last thing. I actually, now that you said the RFK thing, I almost forgot everything that you just said.
We're talking about the whole declassification of all that JFK. And I think was it Pam Bondi said she's seen enough to confirm. She didn't say confirm, but she says it certainly seems apparent there were 2 shooters in the JFK assassination.
Oh, yeah, that's a given. So here's the deal is that if you look at the executive order that Trump put out regarding the JFK, MLK, RFK assassinations, there's a whole process of how this is going to be released that's outlined in there, much like what you just said. And so they're not going to just, put 14,000 pages out there. It'll probably come out in drips, and maybe rightfully so, because it's just too much for everybody to digest all at one time. I think they're concerned about a national uproar when you see these things. So it's got to be strategically released. I do believe that that the Trump administration is all about taking back our rights, which are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which means which means that you can't hide this kind of stuff from us, that we're supposed to be mature enough to be able to
He's
handle
talked a
reality.
lot about that. So that's not BS. He really believes in that.
And so I do believe that we're going to see the Epstein files, and we're going to be able to understand who all was a part of that. And I know that people are freaking out about that, but that is absolutely a requirement for us to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so I don't know exactly how it's going to roll out, but I know it's coming. You can't hide this for much longer. It's coming out.
Well, I'm going to be very, very disappointed if it's obvious it's not full disclosure. I mean, I'm really getting tired of all of this stuff where we're supposed to constitutionally do certain things. And then, like, how about disclosing where $2 trillion, $1.5 trillion of missing taxpayer money has gone? Audit people, for God's sakes. What's going,
Right. I mean, we are $36 trillion in debt right now. I love one of the things that Trump did last week was he put an executive order out there to stop manufacturing pennies because it costs 3 cents to make a penny. That's great.
Common sense has to start.
I'm just looking at every penny that you all are spending, and we're protecting that. That's such a great message. How could you be upset about that message? I mean, thank God that adults are taking over here, and it's not a party. It's about us taking back what belongs to us here.
Yeah, like our money. We probably don't want to fund Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and ISIS $35 million a week. Maybe we could cut that in half. Would that be okay?
I think about my stepfather, Larry, who fought in the Vietnam War. And
I didn't know that.
Through Discovery, he was at Da Nang. He was in the Air Force. And, when I think about the information that I have now, which is that our government actually financed manufacturing facilities in Russia and China that supported the Viet Cong. And so every bullet that was flying at my stepfather had a little signature that said "Made in America" right there on the bullet, right? I mean, it's like we're financing our own young people's destruction. And that if we're financing the Taliban and the Taliban kills Americans, like they blew those Americans up right there at the airport, then we financed that. We paid for that. When you went to work today or yesterday, a part of your day was meant to kill Americans. That can't be. We have to live with that reality that that's actually what happened, and we can't have that blood on our heads. That's absolutely evil. That's got to end yesterday. And so the more people that understand that that's what it is that we're financing our own demise, we're financing the death of our own children, then things are going to change. But until we get that through our heads, it's status quo. Nothing's going to change. And look at the forces that are trying to stop that information from going out. And to me, that's the net that these people are falling into. When these are the bad fish that we got to throw out, because they're rushing right into the net, and it's a sign of their guilt.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of like Biden pardoning Fauci and his entire family.
Right. It's
now, why would like you do that? Right.
Yeah.
Do you have current events or other things that you want to talk about?
No, really. I think we covered a great deal today, and I think we did a good job of glossing over, because there's so much happening. It's impossible to know everything that's going on.
There is so much. There's a lot of good stuff happening. I just have a few memes to share here. This one's really nice. Doctor making $175,000 a year, shows a decent looking house in a nice middle class neighborhood, juxtaposed against a member of Congress making $175,000 a year, and it's like Taylor Swift's mansion layout on the lakefront there.
Well, get this. It was Samantha Power who Obama put in as the leader of the USAID. Yes. They just came out with a report that she was getting paid about $180,000 a year, and somehow her net worth is $10 million now.
Oh my God. Not unsurprising, totally unsurprising. It is amazing the amount of crap that we're just expected to swallow in all this time.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, so this other meme I got here, it's somebody, it's not a bumper sticker, but it's on their windshield. It says all lives splatter. And it's this is kind of cute in its own grotesque way. It's a picture of a truck hitting stick figures. It says, nobody cares about your protest. Keep your ass out of the road. I think that's great.
And also, protest is one thing, but blocking the infrastructure, meaning the roads where ambulances go down, should be, I have to say that's got to be illegal. Like, you can't do that. That endangers everyone when you do that. It's fine to protest and put your mind out, put your opinion out there. Yes. Yeah, that's what we're about. But when you endanger the lives of other people, or simply just make them late for work, that's not,
which could be detrimental to their livelihood. It really could be.
Or they could be, let's say it's a doctor and they've got a surgery that they've got to be a part of, but you want to make sure that minimum wage is raised next year. But there's someone's going to die over that. Like, this is ridiculous. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Okay. With that, we'll start signing off here. My final meme, 80s hair. The wind never stood a chance. And there's this photoshopped picture of this girl with
Look how little her face looks in there.
Yeah. But boy, you know what? That reminds me of a quick story. I had a friend back when I worked at Chi-Chi's Waiting Tables in college. So back in these days, he was talking about how he went to this nightclub in Grand River, and he was just standing there, and he had his arms folded. He was showing how he was standing there talking in the crowd, in this crowded like nightclub, and he's flicking his lighter, just nervous flicking under his arm, and this girl's hair caught on fire next to him. And he said he just saw blue flames going up and all over her head, and he had to grab her and pound her on the head to put it out.
I mean, I was thinking about the same thing when this picture first came up, because all of that hairspray that you need in order to make that happen is flammable.
Right.
I mean, you're just like a torch waiting to be lit right there.
Right. So that's funny. The 80s were a funny period. But you know what? Coming off the 70s, which was like the most distasteful decade. Now, the best music ever, hands down, by far.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but I mean the clothes and the styles of everything, obviously doing a lot of drugs during that time. But then the 80s kind of flipped all that. A lot of everything.
Just say no.
Yeah, you're right about that. But there was the pastels, the neon colors, everything got really opposite of the very earthy 70s.
Yeah, it really did.
Then we went into the grunge of the 90s. See, everything's just always
it's a pendulum.
There you go.
Yep, exactly.
Back to the pendulum.
Yep. It's a thing, man.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think one of the most common themes of the show that we have is about it's about not digging your heels in with your team and causing divisiveness. Keep in mind, united we stand, divided we fall.
You know, and this united thing is all rooted in love, right? And the thing that we talked about is that, you know, in love, you love somebody regardless of their mistakes, their missteps. You forgive, and love and forgiveness are on the same platform.
Right.
The one doesn't go without the other, and that's really where we need to focus. And we can see where the problems are caused is when love isn't in the center of everything that we do, and then that disunites us.
Yeah.
So,
you know, this whole crap about what we were talking about disowning your family over your ideology and all that is horribly self-centered.
It really is.
Just really capitalizing on what you said there,
because huge.
I mean, I know that I talk with family members that leads, you know, you're always dancing alongside politics and ideologies in one way or another. And I just care about their feelings. I know I'm not going to change their mind. I want to preserve my relationship with people I love. So I just want to make sure, hey, I'm respected as a valid human being, and I respect them as valid human beings.
it's such a good point you're making about being self-centered and being really selfless. And parents are typically selfless when when it comes to their kids. Imagine if the way that these kids are acting today, that's how parents acted. Some parents do act like that, right? But those are bad parents. But imagine if they were just like, oh, you don't have my opinion, okay, I disown you. And you can leave the house now. These kids would be destitute. They may die in the streets that way. So I mean, that's just, this whole thing isn't love. We have to help people with this whole thing. And gosh, I
need
hate
parenting classes.
We need to help
for
parents.
Decades. Man,
it's hard being a parent, man. Like, because you want to be their friend, right? Like, I remember wanting that, but knowing that my responsibility isn't to be their friend. It's to make sure that when they get to live their lives as an adult, that I've trained them how to do that. And a part of that is that life is tough. And it's not about you. And if that's it, you're going to have a very hard time in life, and life is going to kick your butt. And these are hard lessons. It's going back to the one my dad taught.
But the thing is that as hard as parenting is, and it is, and we don't have real classes for it. You can find some help, but you're also, now you have the realization that you're battling the Board of Education. You're battling a school system that's indoctrinating with your kids. We didn't even know that until it was really too late in many cases for many kids. And battling the government that wants to be a nanny state, and you're kind of like overworked. So you're like, kind of want the government to take some of that responsibility.
This is true.
So, I mean, these are the things that we have to straighten out.
They're the giants that we have to take down. I mean, really, this is a David and Goliath kind of thing. There's giants out there that need to be taken down. And those are a couple of big ones that you just mentioned. So, but I see it happening. It's all happening, and we're taking it back. We're taking the mountain back. It is uphill, but we're getting there.
I say thank God for a podcast, for independent media, because that's how it's happened.
It is how it's happening. It's the revelation. It's getting the information out there, and when people have the information, they're empowered to have that life pursuit of happiness. So,
all right, with that,
good job, Barry.
All right, you too, Merle. Hope to see you next week. See you guys. Have a great weekend.
Hello, over 50, starting over friends. Mark Tennant back with you with your AI tip of the week. This week, the AI learning partner, how to create your own AI learning assistant. Well, if you're like me, trying to keep up with your industry news and trends, it could be like you're reading a book and you're really getting good at the chapter, but then all of a sudden, somebody keeps adding more chapters. You master one tool, you become familiar with it, and all of a sudden 3 more appear. So how do you take all of your knowledge and all of the current trends and kind of, keep those all in line? Well, you turn to ChatGPT. That's how. Make your personal learning assistant and tutor your own. And all rolled into one. You can do it with ChatGPT. And what we did is we came up with 3 quick prompts for you today. Let's just run through those. Number 1, act as an expert in whatever your industry is. And what are the 3 most significant changes in your field in the past year that you should know about? Well, if you don't know, I am an e-learning developer, and I've been doing that a while, so I just plugged in my job. Act as an expert in e-learning development, and what are the 3 most significant changes in my field in the past year that I should know about? And the answer, first time around, was fantastic. Generative AI and adaptive learning at scale, we're doing that. Advanced immersive learning with augmented reality and extended reality, we're actually doing that now and just really developing our skills on that, which is pretty cool. And then the third one, micro learning and just-in-time learning, we've got that as a goal for 2025. First time through, not bad. Try that first prompt. Second prompt, start a new chat and say, I have 20 years of experience in whatever your field is. Create a 15-day learning plan to help me understand whatever a new trend or skill might be, and then break it into 15-minute daily sessions. I did that, and it really did a nice job. And not only did it do it day by day and gave me a 15-day pretty comprehensive plan, but it gave me an objective for each day and an activity. Intro to AI and e-learning, basics of AI technology, and day 14 and 15, it wrapped that up very nicely. Not bad. First time through, too. So, open up a new chat for the third prompt here. How does my years of experience with whatever your field is connect to today's trends? And some pretty similar answers. AI-driven personalization, which we're really striving to do. Personalized learning experiences, we're working on that at work. Micro-learning, just-in-time training as well. And of course, immersive learning with AR and VR. Not bad at all. So here's a pro tip. Always ask ChatGPT to explain any industry jargon or new concepts that you don't understand. It's like having a translator for traditional business and new technology. And I have another pro tip for you. Don't forget, ChatGPT can explain something to you as many times as you need it. Just tell it. And as we've always said, have that conversation with AI. And I've said before, as I said just a second ago, just talk to the AI. So, want to try this one out? So take one small area of your job that you'd like to learn more about, and you'll be surprised how quickly you'll grasp that with your own personal AI learning partner by your side. And I have a new podcast out. It's called AI After 50, and it's very similar to this, but it's about every episode 10 to 15 minutes in length. We really go deeper into a lot of these concepts. We also have detailed show notes that you can download and you can learn at your own pace. And then we also have an option to subscribe to our premium show notes where we go a little bit deeper, and then that comes right to your inbox every Monday when a new episode drops. It's the AI After 50 podcast. Get it wherever you subscribe to your podcast, and we would love to have you along. And of course, we're on the socials. LinkedIn, the preferred one. You can find me at Mark E. Tennant. So until next time, create that personal learning assistant. Always keep learning and keep using AI.